What's happening, guys? Happy Tuesday, Browns fans, OBR fans, and followers of the OBR streaming network. My name is Joe Mazzulo. My man with me here is Pete Smith. Welcome to Pete and Joe. Get into the off season as the action picks up. We had a busy week, Pete. We had the combine. We have the first two trades of the NFL season, one of which involving the Browns, both of which involving the Houston Texans. We've got franchise tags are officially placed. We got a free agent list that is now official. We got a lot going on. Peter, how you doing, homie?
I'm good. I have many thoughts and opinions, the least of which is the Houston Texans and their absolute hatred for seemingly offensive linemen and CJ Stroud.
Yeah. I get that. I also find it so funny that the Browns keep going back to a well of a team that has offensive line issues to get their offensive linemen, but here we are, you know.
Andrew Berry has a 20-year plan where he's eventually going to equal out the offset, the awful trade, and eventually he's going to get back to even.
You just got to stack the little ones, man, and slowly.
Robinson, Titus Brown, just keep inching your way back.
Yeah, I am all about that. So let's just dive right in. We got the combine's going to be the bulk of what we go over, I'm sure. But let's talk about the Titus Howard deal. Why do you like it? Why do you not like it? What do you think the pros are? What are the cons, if you see any? Where are you at with this one?
I like Titus Brown. I like Titus Brown, the player, in terms of being a person, a guy who played 3 spots and was like, whatever I can do, because they were juggling with Trent Brown, who's, consistently unreliable, being able to stay at right tackle. They had bad guard play, and he was willing to jump in there and do whatever he's asked of him. That part of it's great, particularly as you are trying to rebuild this thing. You need adults and you need professionals to be a part of that room. He is a starting caliber tackle, which they absolutely need. I don't love the fact that they are essentially kicking the can down the road, but I also get it. They have to replace 5 guys. They can't.
I was going to say they can't
do it all by just drafting. Yeah. So, do you love seemingly the Houston Texans have a pretty established culture, I guess, or rule about not paying guys premium dollars when they are about to hit 30, because Laramie Tunsil, second he was about to hit 30, out. Titus Brown, same deal, about to be 30 years old. I'm hoping he sustains and can play good football for the 2 years he's likely going to be here. Mm-hmm. Good pass protector, which is certainly important. Don't love him as a run blocker. That doesn't make me feel great. But you essentially traded Kenny Pickett for a starting right tackle. Win. That's an easy win to me. So yeah, I don't see a ton of downside simply because they still have to find 4 more guys. So it's not like you're getting him to be the last piece of the offensive line puzzle. He's the first piece.
Yeah, right. He's almost the only piece at the moment, unless you count, the fairy dust that Zach Zinser, Luke Whippler, and KT Leviston represent as a future starter. I like that Howard doesn't really stick anywhere permanently, right? He can move into guard if that's the case. He can stay at tackle if he has to. There's a lot of versatility there, and that kind of opens a lot of avenues for us to address this certain ways through the draft. I don't think this is the only move we're going to make. Do you think we're going to make other trades?
Potentially. I mean,
yeah, if the opportunity's there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of it, but also you're like, all these teams are doing the thing where they're going, hey, we're going to release this guy, so, give us something. And there's a couple guys in there that I don't know about linemen, but, if they want to get a quarterback and be like, we just want to get ahead of this thing and get a quarterback, they have that opportunity. But there are potentially more linemen out there or something else they could get that's sort of along these lines to just sort of add another piece. And you can criticize the extension. We got to see the details on it, but you can certainly do that. But you're not bidding for this dude on the open market. So you're inherently getting at least a slightly cheaper deal, because if he's getting this, he probably could have gotten more on the open market. And to contrast this against the guy I do not want them to chase after, Rasheed Walker is going to get way more than this and be basically a similar level player. Now, he's 26. You're hoping he's going to sort of ascend into being a better player. Whereas with this guy, you're basically saying, I just hope he stays the same, or because he's coming off a really good season. You hope he stays the same. But still, I go back to Dan Moore. $91 million is the top end of the value of that contract the Titans paid out. Is there any reason not to believe that somebody's going to overextend on the open market for this? So
200%. We see it every year.
So if this guy was going to hit the open market, I think he would have gotten more money. So I like the fact that you're getting ahead of these contracts with trades. You have fifth. I'll be honest, man. I go through the simulator. It's tough for me to use all the picks. And so this is Adrian Berry gets knocked for a whole lot of things. This is one of the areas where I don't think he gets enough credit for taking very low picks, 5th round, and getting contributors. No, is he as good as Amari Cooper? No. Is he as good as Jerry Jeudy? Probably not. Is he as good as what's his face? The Vikings defensive end. Probably, maybe he's going to be up to that level of that. And for a 5th round pick, that's exactly what you want. If you get 2 years of capable starting tackle play, or a year of starting tackle play and a good year of guard play, or something along. If you get 2 years of a starting lineman, you're going to be happy with that for the exchange for a 5th. We're not talking about premium picks. They've still got 2 more 5th round picks, and they may use one of those for something.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And shout out to the chat. Shout out to Chris and to Ty. Chris, Jack Conklin is definitely a free agent. I'm 99% sure he's gone. I think he's going to retire. Isn't that kind of the general vibe, Pete? Or is he going to keep it going?
I don't think he's going to try to play again. But stranger things have happened. But it just seems like he played out the contract. I don't see him starting over again. It's a shame because he's a really good player whose body has just been destroyed.
Yeah. And and Ty, you're absolutely right. Everybody does need O-line every year. There's seldom a perfect line in the NFL. And when it is that way, it's like that for maybe a year, and then you see it come crashing down. So everybody needs linemen all the time. That's why they rarely hit free agency. That's why when they do hit free agency, they get wildly overpaid. I mean, Pete, let me switch it back to you real quick. Rasheed Walker in free agency on day one. Why do I think that that's something that the Browns are going to be a part of? I don't necessarily think they're going to land him, but I think they're going to be a part of that.
To the extent that they'll, throw an offer out there, okay. But beyond that, I just don't think return on investment is just going to be virtually impossible for them at this point. And there are other deals which I think are going to be better placed for them financially that address the position and give them the sort of path to go to the draft and get what is hopefully a longer term answer.
Well, let me ask you this, just to play devil's advocate, because I think we both agree that Rasheed Walker is a good player. He's just maybe not quite worth the price tag that he's going to hit, right?
If he was a good player, Green Bay wouldn't be letting him go.
So you don't think he's a good player?
I think he's average.
I
think he's an average.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. For a team that's been starving at offensive tackle for the better part of 3 years right now, wouldn't a young, solidified, average starter that shores up that end of the line be okay? I mean, you're going to pay premiums anyway, right? We paid $20 million plus last year for Cam Robinson and Cornelius Lucas. We got absolutely bupkis for them. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I get what you're saying, but isn't it kind of nice, the idea of locking up both tackles before the draft begins, so you're not pigeonholed into reaching on Monroe Freeling or Caleb Lomu? You can take that wide receiver, or even a pass rusher that falls, that strikes you as elite, like an Arvell Reese or a David Bailey.
Well, let's preface by saying Cam Robinson was an emergency ad when
of course
30 guys died.
You know what I'm saying, though? But my overall, if we don't get Walker, it's going to be a free agent on the level of Cam Robinson, if not worse, or it's going to be a draft.
Maybe. I think when you make a series of deals to get Rasheed Walker's, you end up being the Jacksonville Jaguars, or what the Tennessee Titans are going to do, or like the Arizona Cardinals occasionally do, where they sign these guys and then 2 years they're cutting them and they are changing over into a new regime because they just never get enough return on investment. The Chiefs got away with it. Juwan Taylor is essentially what Rasheed Walker was for a couple of years. They got enough to obviously win the Super Bowl, but the return on investment for that deal was terrible. And that's where I sort of come out on this. So if I'm saying I'm not going after Rasheed Walker, I am prioritizing Braxton Jones. I am sitting there going, Braxton Jones is coming off an injury, maybe able to get him for a reasonable 1 year deal. And maybe it's like $10 million. It could be, because to your point, it could be the Cam Robinson type thing, but I want to get somebody who's going to solidify the line ahead of time and then allow you to, at your leisure in this case, or when the board plays to you, get the guy who's going to replace him, which is what the Texans did with Cam Robinson in the first place. They signed him and then they drafted Ariante Ursary Ursery ultimately wins the job and they ship out Robinson. That is, to me, the best case scenario. And even if you don't ship out the guy, at least at that point, you got two guys.
Yeah.
And obviously, and beyond that, you still have DeJuan Jones, who I assume is going to just naturally become the swing tackle. So that's where I sit here and go, I can get way better return on the investment, because I don't want to live in a world where I'm sitting here for the next potentially 3 seasons, or most likely 3 seasons based on how these contracts work, where I'm sitting here going, we do the thing. We are mad at Rasheed Walker because he's never the player that the contract demands him to be, and he's simply the player he is, which is unfair, but also like how these things tend to play out.
So, not to give you too much pushback on that, but like I've heard you mention the return on investment and stuff like that, right? I feel like the contract stuff, I feel like it's almost like I don't want to say like an archaic way to look at it just because of like the past roster implications on these contracts, but like the NFL is different, man. I mean, look, I look at the Deshaun Watson contract and the fact that, like, yeah, we've been held back by it, but we've also been able to spend money every offseason. We've always been able to, put ourselves in some sort of negotiations on some level. And that's with the worst, most ridiculous contract in NFL history working against us. So I don't necessarily view a bigger contract as like, as that big of a workaround if it doesn't work out. That's number one. Number two is all these prices and all these numbers go up, up, up. And it's almost not like that the best are getting paid. It's just that's the market value for the starting left tackle for an NFL franchise. So it might be a slight overpay for Rasheed Walker, but there's ways around that. And solidifying that position to at least you're raising the floor of it to a certain point. I think there's an argument to be made that it could be worth it, especially if it opens up your flexibility on draft day.
Perhaps, but then you are getting right back into the bad business of getting a whole bunch of premium contracts on the offensive line, which is what they just got out of, what I would hope they want to avoid, and build their own guys, develop their own players. That's when they've been at their best, is when they've had a group that they've been able to keep together with cohesion for years in a row. And constantly having to sub in parts and all this other stuff doesn't really work all that well. And these guys age out and all this other stuff. So could they do it? Yeah. There's just places I'd rather spend the money. I'd rather just, to your point, the inverse of your argument is saying, well, if I do this, then it really gives me options in the draft. Well, if I don't, and I get a cheaper player, now I've got more money to use on a player that could be a good opportunity that actually is worth the money and improves my roster somewhere else. So if signing Braxton Jones means, like, if I could get Braxton Jones and Devin Bush for the same cost of Rasheed Walker, I'd probably do that, or something to that effect. As opposed to, I get one guy. If he gets hurt, I'm screwed, or all these other things that, naturally come with the expense.
Okay. And I mean, and that's obviously fair enough. A very, very hot topic today was that of quarterback Kyler Murray, who will officially become a free agent on the first day of the new league year. And the word is that just like Russell Wilson, when he got let go by the Broncos a few years ago, he's going to be able to sign for pennies on the dollar, and it's going to be very advantageous to whatever team wants to bring him in. I got to tell you, Pete, I think he's one of the more uniquely talented players in the history of the NFL, but I want nothing to do with him. And not only that, I'm not worried because he's not going to choose to come here.
No, he's not.
Yeah. So it's kind of a moot point, but I would love to get your take on the Murray stuff and where you think he might ultimately end up.
Somewhere indoors or warm. He's not going any. I do not see him going anywhere near a cold weather city. He's played a weirdly low number of games. I mean, obviously playing in Arizona, that naturally is a byproduct, but he's never outside, let alone
like 4 games, right?
Yeah.
Like 4, like below like 50-degree games.
Yeah, like precipitation. What is this? And he's not a good downfield passer. No. So, like, all of a sudden now wind is involved. What is this? What is this weird substance that's coming out of the sky that's affecting my passes? Like, It's just I just don't see him as a serious quarterback, and I don't see the supporting cast around him that makes it work here. Arizona had better parts last year, and they were better off with Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback.
It was a productive offense with Jacoby Brissett before the running back got hurt. Connors, like they were tough.
The only thing I can say that Steelman's the case for Kyler Murray is in Kyler Murray, Shedeur Sanders, and Sean Watson. You'd have three guys who seemingly like to play off schedule.
Yeah.
In fact, basically only play off schedule. So in that sense, you have three guys to do that. But the problem is with Kyler Murray, if he's coming here for a guarantee. Yeah. So you're now saying there's no competition after you said there was a competition. You're basically saying Shedeur Sanders isn't going to get not even the ones, but I mean, not like he doesn't get any reps, but now he's potentially splitting them with the second and third team reps with Deshaun Watson. So now we're basically saying, well, not that he can't theoretically get better and ultimately show enough to replace him, but you've sort of set a pecking order for that. And then you are just now waiting for Kyler Murray to get hurt, which won't take very long. And then Shedeur then eventually goes in there. But like, if you're somebody going, man, I really want to see Shedeur Sanders in a competition, or you're the other extreme where you're just like, I want Shedeur Sanders to be the starter. Kyler Murray eliminates all that stuff, and it's just over at that point. But I just think it's a terrible fit for this division. I think it's a terrible fit for him. I see no interest on his part. I think he could end up, depending on how things shake out, I could see him ending up with a team like Minnesota, even though they would have to go outside a couple times. But they're still a home dome team. Indianapolis, unless they actually follow through on this, what I think is a cockamamie scheme with Daniel Jones,
transition tag.
who are either of these two sides kidding? Again, dome team, ready-made offense where you could theoretically make that work. And if he's not necessarily married to the idea of starting, he makes a ton of sense for Carolina.
Yeah.
And then the last one, where he'd be the backup to what they have, but they have two guys that basically do the same things. And then the last one, which I think is the fallback option if Miami is unable to get Malik Willis, I think that makes more sense. They've got a lot of pieces in place where you could sit there and go, okay, Kyler Murray can do his read option stuff with Devin Achane, and you're like, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. So going back to Malik Willis real quick. I've got a Malik Willis Browns take that we can go over later that you might find interesting. But I look at Miami and I look at Arizona as the two most likely destinations if you believe what you read in the media. I think Arizona makes a ton of sense because of his brother, the familiarity and scheme, and the fact that I mean Arizona's got a nice setup out there for a quarterback to step into. They really, really do. But one thing that I think makes so much sense, and you haven't heard a peep about it, and I mean, you're probably not going to because they transition tag Daniel Jones. Why the hell is Indianapolis not interested in Malik Willis?
Well, here's the thing. If you transition tag him and then you make a full court press for Malik Willis and you're like, you get it done, you bring him in, you just take the tag off.
Pull the tag, yeah.
It does become like a weirdly interesting insurance policy for them to be like, well, we're not sure. I mean, granted, it does put you at risk with the whole Alec Pierce situation. Yeah. But if you're just like, yeah, we've got this Daniel Jones thing, but we're going to get to this. We're going to let to see his rehab continue to play out. And we're going to attack free agency with this other stuff. Yeah. You're like, Malik, we're going to go hard after you. And if you're interested, we're just going to move on from Daniel Jones. That'll be it. Because that makes a ton of sense for them. He's not coming off an Achilles injury. He fits really well with everything you've got there. You've got a tremendous running back in Jonathan Taylor. You have weapons around him that he can function with. And, Shane Steichen, it could be exactly the type of quarterback he wants to run that offense. And so I don't rule them out for making a big push. Now we'll see. Maybe they're just content to go with Daniel Jones because he was very successful before he got hurt. But I don't rule out the possibility they go hard after him and just like, and if it doesn't work, okay, we're back to Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, that makes total sense to me. Especially They just swung the deal last year for Sauce Gardner. They're down a first-round pick this year and next year. I mean, this is probably their best chance. And look, I can appreciate that they have a good relationship with Jones. Things went really well last year before he got hurt. But he still is coming off a torn Achilles, and you have a team that can contend right now. So if they, transition to going after Willis, I think it makes all the sense in the world. All right, let's talk about the combine, dude. I mean, it's human evolution, right? Like, these guys just keep getting bigger and faster and more explosive, and the training gets more and more precise for these individual workouts and everything like that. But Jesus, Pete, we saw some stuff, man. The two tight ends were insanity. The OSU linebackers were stupid. Some of the offensive linemen and defensive linemen are like dancing bears. It was a fun combine to watch. What stuck out to you the most? I mean, I know a lot of it is meaningless, and a lot of it is just, for the talking heads to, fill the airways. But what did you come away with? Like, what were some of the most important things that you came out of this with?
I don't think anything testing wise necessarily jumped out at me as a huge surprise, because, like, particularly the offensive linemen, we knew they were going to be, a lot of those guys were going to be super athletic. The biggest surprise to me is the fact that everybody is now just penciling in Monroe Freeling to the Browns at 6.
As a Georgia kid, Pete, it makes all the sense in the world.
I really liked him when he was a possibility at 24. And it's not to say that the Browns couldn't take him at 6, because he has the height, he has the length, he has the size, he has the flexibility, he has the athleticism. But most everybody knew that going into it. And yet, simply by showing off things that everybody sort of counted on, this is how you end up at Georgia. Everybody's now escalated him to a point where, like, Francis Maui-Noa and Spencer Fano apparently died over the course of the combine. And they were, Fano in particular was really, really impressive.
Yeah.
I understand that outside of maybe quarterback, there's no more of a eye of the beholder position than offensive line, because you don't have numbers to fall back on or any of these other things. It's entirely what does the guy do? How does he do it? And all that stuff where you sit and you talk yourself into these things. But, like, there are a ton of people out there who are like, he's got second day tape, and you're talking about taking a guy 6th overall, or, facilitating a trade back ideally and then taking him, which is a little more tolerable.
Yeah.
But he's slightly more athletic than Caleb Lomu and has slightly bigger hands. He's just as athletic as Max Iheanacho, and he has slightly bigger hands, and Iheanacho plays right tackle. Like, if you're asking me, as we sit here today, and you're saying, would I rather take Monroe Freeling at 6 or get one of those two guys at 24? I'm signing up for the dudes at 24. Like,
yeah,
I don't. You have to, like, the thing is, you have to get a top 10 player. And then what further sort of makes this a frustrating scenario for me or whatever is, like, then I see mock drafts where, like, hey, the Browns take Monroe Freeling at 6 and then take Omar Cooper at 24. And I'm just sitting there going, you just took a tackle that probably should be going in the middle of the round, and then you took a wide receiver that should be going in the second round. Like, this is not how you do this. This is a really bad use of resources.
That's a common theme in mock drafts now. People are praising it. People love it. I'm with you. I'm a big Omar Cooper fan. I think he's a stud, but I don't like him in the first round. I would prefer not to, at least. Look, let me give you a little pushback on Monroe Freeling, and it's not even that I don't disagree with you, because the biggest thing coming out of the combine for me, and most of my juice about the combine, is that I think the Browns have some legitimate ammo at that 6th pick to move down. And I ultimately think that's what we're going to do. That's what I hope that we do. But I will say this about Monroe Freeling. So he had another year of eligibility, right? It wasn't a given that he was going to come back.
All those 3 guys I mentioned, I believe, had more eligibility.
Yeah, right. So the way I look at this is you're getting your hands on a kid a year early. He's going to get NFL coaching in the system that you want to get him in. You're going to get him in your strength and conditioning program, and you're going to coach him up. And he's got SEC tape under his belt. I mean, everybody's going to have good tape, bad tape. It's easy to find all that stuff. But I feel like that's a big marble slab that you can mold into the type of player that you want. And I feel like he hits everything that you want from a lineman. He's got a mean streak. He's big. He's athletic. He's got all that stuff. So it's like, if you believe in the kid, I don't necessarily think it's that much of a reach if you take him at 6, if you project him to be your starting left tackle for the next decade, because that's the thing. Draft position it only matters on draft day. By the time the season starts, you either got to do it or you don't. And if you do, it doesn't matter. And if you don't, then so you should have taken him in the first place. You could have traded down 20 spots and still got the wrong guy.
True. Now, having said that, I can make the exact same case for Caleb Lomu. And here's the thing with Caleb Lomu. Just thinking off the top of your head, who did Georgia play this year that was really good on the pass rush?
He's really good on pass rush?
Yeah, who's the stud he faced that really tested him this year?
I off the top of my head, I can't think of. Do you know, or is it just nobody of significance?
Not really anybody. Meanwhile, who did Utah play? They played Texas Tech. David Bailey and Romello Height are on tape against Fano and Caleb Lomu, and they took some lumps in that game. But they faced a guy who's being talked about as the second pick of the draft. And they faced the guy who's being talked about at the end of the first round.
Pete Maxey Honachur had a pretty damn good game against Texas Tech as well.
Right.
That was the tape that really made me like, yo, this dude's a dude.
So when you sit here and go, well, he played the SEC, and I totally understand. Like, normally I'd be like, yep, strength of schedule, check.
Yeah.
But, like, they played Auburn, so maybe he faced off against Keldrick Falk, but he's not like a bend the edge type guy. He's power end, that's fine. And they played like Texas, who has a couple guys that are going to be underclassmen, but
they didn't play. They played South Carolina.
I don't know that. I can look, because obviously, if Dylan Stewart's a dude.
Dylan Stewart's a dude. Yeah.
But like, you sit there and you go, who did they really? Who got the real competition? And it's the Utah dudes. And speaking of which, that's the other part about this. So. I'll stick with this first. I don't think they did play South Carolina this year. They did not. So, you sit there and you go, that's not great. You tend to want to find guys that faced off against guys you are going to see in the league. Yeah. You can at least say that Inachor and Lomu and Fano did.
Yeah.
Not as much with Freeling. But to your point, Caleb Lomu is just like Monroe Freeling, is a guy you are projecting to be better, probably getting a year early, because everybody's talking about he's a really good pass protector, but he needs to get stronger. Although here again, the testing sort of showed he's got plenty of power.
Yeah.
Or Inachor, who I have zero problem flipping him to the other side. None. If that's what you want to do. Because he's soccer player feet.
Yeah.
Soccer and basketball player feet. He's relatively young to the position anyway. Go nuts. To me, he seems incredibly coordinated that he could easily make that swap. So that's where I sit here and go, just weighing cost-benefit analysis type stuff. Maybe Freeling at 6 is the right pick, and maybe you are getting the guy. But even the comparisons that people make, Colton Miller is a really good tackle. He was taken 21st or something. Yeah. And I can't remember the other one that people have sort of pointed out, but it's those type of guys.
Colton was 15th, I thought.
Well, either way.
Yeah.
Not in the top 10.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And that's where you sort of get in this thing. It's I get it. I understand the value of the position, but now if I just transfix that argument and say, I can take Francis Marinoa and put him at theoretically right guard for 2 years and then move him out to tackle, if you can do that with Titus Brown leaving at that point or whatever. Then you get a tackle who's everybody thinks is sort of just a better football player, and then come back and get that other tackle, like the left tackle later if you want. Like that's right. Or the other example, and we can sort of get into his whole mess. Carnell Tate, if I take him at 6, is that a better use of the resource, or if I trade back to like, whatever and get Carnell Tate, if that's even a thing? But let's say for the sake of argument at 6, am I better off taking Carnell Tate at 6, the best receiver in the class, and then waiting because you believe the supply of the offensive lineman is going to sustain? And the other guy I can sort of throw into that mix of the tackle world. Not that I'd want to flip him sides. He'd be one where I'd move Titus inside to guard would be Blake Miller, because he also has all the things that you in terms of hand size, arm length, starts, and he's got like the most experience of anybody. He's incredibly strong. He's been durable. All these things. Am I better off waiting to get a guy like that rather than going with Freeling this early? Because ultimately, here's the thing: is the Browns need 5 guys.
Yeah.
And yes, I understand the scarcity point. Tackle is harder to get than guard, even though I think ultimately guards tend to be more important for the most part. But do the Browns need to sort of do they need to force a tackle pick at 6 to try to deal with that issue, or are they better off playing the board and then sort of figuring it out as they go? Because like the other, not that I'm advocating this, but there's this weird element where the Browns theoretically could sort of have an interesting fallback plan if everything goes haywire, which is they're just like, screw it. We're taking Markel Bell and we're throwing him in at left tackle and we're just putting a building over there. Good luck.
How high do you think he's going to go?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
And, I mean, but doesn't that basically fall under the Caleb Proctor thing with you?
Well,
it's just like a gigantic human being.
Speaking of Caleb Proctor, like the Browns met with him.
Yeah.
What do they think? Is he the guy that they really like? Is that where they sort of sit there and go, man, we could try to move back, and then if all else fails, we'll just take Proctor and see what we can do with him. And if he can't be a tackle, he can be a guard. That's where I just think to me, it's interesting that the Browns have 1 tackle as opposed to 0, and now everybody's more sure that they're going to draft a tackle than they were before. But I think the draft conversation got bigger, not smaller, based on the combine, based on the acquisition, based on all the things that have sort of happened with this stuff. So like, I just think they've got more options if it's moving down. If it's getting a guy like Maui Noah, we're going to see in a couple weeks, and we're going to find out Spencer Fano's arms are actually more than long enough, because everybody was seemingly getting like circumcised of it, like 5/8 of an inch for Maxi Iheanacho. I mean, that's a lot to lose over the course of time. That are we going to find out? Oh no, Spencer Fano's fine. He's got 33-inch arms. There's no worries, and we're going to throw him in there because he tested really, really, really well. He's actually younger than some of the other guys that are being projected.
Him and Lomo are both young. They're both like 21 or younger.
Yeah. No, Fano is 21.
Yeah.
And do you then go, yeah, screw it. Fano can play left tackle, and we're just going to be fine with that. I know he's been at right tackle, but I love his attitude, and I love Maui Noah's attitude, where Maui Noah specifically said, look, man, there's 5 opportunities to get on the field. I'm getting one of them.
Yep.
Fano's like, took center snaps.
He said, I'll play center. Yeah.
And he crushed the 3-cone. You do all those things, and you just like, I can eat. I'm the interview process, which I'm sure we'll get into on a different guy. I'm curious to if he came off the same way to teams, where he's just like, in sort of ways he's somewhat of a goofball, but in the best possible way, that he's energetic and all the right reasons. But like,
good vibes.
It's just that's been the whole funny part about this is like, for a long time, it was like the people were like, offensive line, man, give me Maui Noah or Fano, and we're going to do this. And Fano crushes everything he's supposed to do. Maui Noah
it's because Titus Howard's a right tackle, so everybody's like, oh well, they can't take a right tackle now. But I just refuse to get caught up in you cannot move guys around. The guy they just acquired played 3 spots last year. Like, it can be done. It's a matter of coaching and reps and all these other things that you can get right and take care of. Obviously, there's a real question
with Fano, what is he actually in terms of length and all these other things? But like, he's built very similar to Joe Thomas. It's just in terms of height versus arm length and everything else. You sit here and go, I can envision a world where this guy can he can do all the things we're asking him to do. So like, that's where I sit here and wonder if it's such a reach that he's able to step in there and play tackle, or if all else fails, you have a really good guard, and that would be certainly valuable from that standpoint. So yeah, I mean, like, I understand the appeal with Freeling. I like Freeling. I just liked him a hell of a lot more when we were talking about him at 24 as opposed to 6. 6 is incredibly high. That's an extraordinary expense. There you go. You made it back. That's just a huge expense. And I think you have to get a top 10 player. And yes, look, and the other part about this, I completely concede that if you take Freeling and by year 3 he is a top tackle, then it's worth it. But that's the hitch. He's got to make sure he gets there. And I'm just not sure that he's going to, that you can guarantee that or anything like that. So I get it. I worry about paying a huge premium to get him, and then having a Will Campbell like rookie season, and then people just pile on that this kid can't play and all these other things. So I just think that conversation is open. Yeah, Spencer Fano is younger than Monroe Freeling, for example. I don't know specifically Caleb Lomu other than he's 21. So if the Browns feel comfortable with a guy like Fano, I think the tape's better. I think what he's done has been better. And obviously some of this is going to come down to what the Browns want to do scheme-wise. Because what the other thing I would say that is in favor of Monroe Freeling, just for me, is just a stylistic comparison. I like the way he plays better than I like a guy like Caleb Lomu. Caleb Lomu is a better pass protector. He's got tight end feet. He's super gifted in terms of that element. I don't love him in terms of I don't love him in terms of how he run blocks. I don't see necessarily the tenacity or the grit in that element. He's more of a wall off positional blocker. I think the way Freeling fires off the ball, the way he's able to bend, like, I see the appeal there where, if I was to design a tackle on sort of a spectrum and you had a knob of how good they are in pass protection versus run blocking, and you say like Caleb Lomu is like 95-5 or 90-10 pass protection versus run blocking. Freeling to me is more of something I would approve of in terms of if I could design it myself, I'd probably be more at like the 75-25 or even 70-30. I want to get more run blocking than that. And in part because if you're a really good run team, it's going to benefit you as a pass protector. You're going to be able to stay on schedule and all those other elements that sort of help you out. And I can give up a little bit in pass protection if I'm going to get more in the run game. I don't love, you can certainly design your line to do this because so many teams are right-handed that you get very little from your left tackle. But I think it's just a huge benefit when you can really, really effectively run both directions.
Hey, Pete, let me ask you something, because this is a problem I'm having with the 6th pick in general, right? And I get what you're saying about Freeling and like you worry about the value being there and if it is a reach and everything like that. But I have a hard time looking at any offensive player in this draft, save Jeremiah Love and maybe Fernando Mendoza, where I wouldn't have questions of the validity of them going at that 6th spot. That includes all the top wide receivers. That includes all the top tackles. I mean, I feel like there's holes that you can poke in all these guys' games, right? I think, for me personally, I think Carnell Tate makes the most sense if you're going wide receiver at 6, but I'm also not in love with that. I don't necessarily think he's a top 10 receiver. I think he is this season because of the way the draft is laid out, but I don't necessarily think that he's a typical 6th overall pick in most drafts. So, like, that's the only pushback I'll give you regarding Freeland, because I get what you're saying. I just have a hard time seeing any offensive player that I can't poke holes through. And, I mean, we both love Mekhi Lemon, but if there was ever a wide receiver who wasn't worthy of a top 10 selection based on a lot of, rules for taking a wide receiver in the top 15 of the draft, I mean, it would be him, right?
So this is where I sort of go against the grain, because that's where a lot of traits-based analysis and guys who have done this for a really long time are saying, like, there's no receiver worth the top 10 pick in this class.
Yeah,
I disagree. I think there's 3, 4 if you could eliminate injuries from 1.
Yeah,
because based on data and everything else, and then the athleticism, which is still to be answered with these guys, if that checks out, and I'll get to Carnell Tate on that in a second, then you are talking about guys who can profile to be number 1 receivers on your team. And at that point,
your third in this scenario is KC Concepcion, yeah?
Yes, it is, who I absolutely love.
Yeah.
But that's so at that point, to me, 6 is no problem.
Yeah.
So if Carnell Tate is that guy, then no problem. So let's get to Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate ran a 4.53 40.
There were some that claimed that he was a 4.45.
Yes. The arm gate, that the electric timing has caught his arm moving early, and that cost him, and that the actual stopwatchers were right on this one. I don't care. It's not great, but that's not the end of the world either. The fact of the matter is 4.53 at 192 pounds, which is light, is not good. It doesn't mean he can't do it. What it does mean is that ultimately you have to find one of the other 2 ways to be one of the other traits. The other 2 traits you have to have need to be good, because there's 3. You need to be really good at one of them. One of them is speed. He's not going to get there. He can rerun at Ohio State. Maybe it will be better. I should say, when he runs at Ohio State, it will be better. Ohio State will make sure. Explosion. He didn't jump, but his jumps would elucidate that. And then the flexibility, which is where I think he could do it. And that is the JSN thing, where people are like, well, he ran a 4.52 at 196 pounds. Yeah, I know. The thing that set him apart was he ran a 6.713 cone and 3.93 shuttle, which are just absurd. Yeah. Just the body control and just everything that goes into that is crazy. And you can see it. And it makes him play faster than you otherwise think. Now, Carnell Tate does not need to get those type of numbers. As I just said, otherworldly agility from JSN. But if he can get a sub 7.3 cone, if he can get a probably sub 4.2 or somewhere in that right around that 4.2 mark at shuttle, I think he will be fine. Everything else he has, he's got arm length, he's got hand size, he's got all the stuff, and his production doesn't quite tick the box of elite. But if you're like looking at just sort of his volume, if it goes up, projects to get really good. And I love the way they could theoretically utilize an offense with him, with Jerry Jeudy, with Harold Fannin, and those guys. Yeah. So that part is fine. Mekhi Lemon, what's interesting to me is, for the longest time, it was he's going to be 5'9". Well, he's not. He's 5'11". He's 192 pounds, which stands out to me simply because he's the same weight as Carnell Tate. Now, he didn't test, so we have to see what he's actually going to weigh when he decides to actually do the testing. The other thing that people are holding against him is his arm length, which is not great. It's like 30.5 inches. I don't care that his arm length is 30.5 inches. JSN's arm length is 30.5 inches. Parker Washington, who's really good, his arm length is 29 inches. Yeah. That position, specifically slot, doesn't care. Now, the thing that does sort of jump out at you is wingspan. His wingspan is not great. That's where you sit there and you go, ooh, he is sort of a smaller frame relative to other stuff. But again, slot, but as a slot, it is obviously production is the big thing. He's got that, all of that. Beyond that, and finding an athletic trait, he's got the same thing to prove. as Carnell Tate does. The rest of it is entirely skill based.
Yeah.
This is not X and the Z and those guys. There are more stringent rules on how they operate. But when it comes to slot, it's guys just figure it out and they make it work.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing in terms of like the outlier stuff is they are specifying to the first round, which guys like this don't go in the first round or have not historically gone in the first round. The whole point is like, this is an area where the NFL sitting there going, these guys should probably be in the first round conversation because we haven't been doing this right. And Amon-Ra St. Brown going in the fourth round was a massive mistake on our part because he's one of the best receivers in the league. And how can we fix that? Or Puka Nacua, obviously his situation is different. He was injured basically his entire college career, but he was a 5-star recruit and all these other things. And then he became good.
Yeah.
He still gets hurt, but he's still really, really good. He's also a slot player. And that position is being more and more emphasized by teams. So yes, there's somewhat of an outlier conversation to be had there, but when you get in the slot, it doesn't matter as much. Now, the part that might matter for Mikhail Lemon is whatever that was in terms of the press conference and then the reports of the meetings that did not go well.
Yeah.
I don't care about the press conference. I just don't. Unless you're telling me he's done something where you're sitting there, like the amount of stuff, off-field stuff that the NFL casually ignores.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what's going on with the Atlanta Falcons and the pass rush that they took in the first round when there were all kinds of these elements that were out there. And they said, the Falcons just basically said, screw it, we're ignoring this.
Yeah.
So
they did their due diligence, I'm sure.
If Mikhail Lemon is just different, then I don't care. If he went to the meetings and like whatever their quote unquote disaster is, if there's something there, then so be it. That's what the interviews are for. Figure out what the problem is.
Yeah. And we'll see on draft day. The league will reflect whatever concerns there are if they're legitimate.
Well, I mean, I suspect at some point something will leak out as to what the issue was that he was having. Yeah. And I don't know how to sort of rate that. So I'm not going to be like, it could have an effect. And at that point, maybe that knocks him out of that conversation in the top 10. Okay. And then I watch him end up on the Ravens and then I got to deal with it forever.
Well, Pete, let me ask you this, right? So we both agree that Mikhail Lemon's very good. All right. I'm sure the viewers and listeners have seen film and stuff like that. Why don't you help break down the efficiency numbers from him and just why he's so elite? Because it's easy to look at the yards and touchdowns and watch the Iowa game and stuff like that. But it's like when you really get into the advanced stuff, it really shows how dominant a player he really is.
Yeah, I mean, like when here's the you all these people, like I watched the combine. Jacoby Lane's workout was tremendous. Mm-hmm. And he barely got the ball. Now, there's reasons for that. Now, when you put defenders on the field, it's a little bit different for Jacoby Lane. He seems to just fall over. But nevertheless, Mikhail Lemon sent multiple receivers in the portal. Mm-hmm. Deuce Robinson and left.
Zachariah Branch.
Yep. Zachariah Branch left and went to Georgia. Mikhail Lemon just kept getting the ball and kept producing, like at a supremely high level. So that's where you sit here and go, talking about like outliers and stuff. I get it, but like this is also like I will also say, what about the trust the tape guys? Because the tape says he's killing it. But again, whenever USC's pro day happens, he's got to provide a winning trait. I suspect it will be agility and flexibility, but we got to see it. But nevertheless, I can't go off anything other than that. But if they want to push him down to 24, great. I love it. I'm all about it. But that's my whole fear is for me. I want to come out of this draft with a guy who can be a number one receiver. And after Carnell Tate, Mikhail Lemon, and Casey Concepcion, unless the doctors are really super comfortable with Jordan Tyson, I don't see another number one. I know what the numbers say about the dude from Washington, Denzel Boston.
Yeah.
I have major concerns based on the tape. the least of which is he's not an X. Like, that's not what you watch him. And when they play teams that play zone and off coverage, he carves them up. He's really good. They play him on the line, and there's no issue. Teams that press, you watch him. They put him in motion. They hide him behind bunches. There's one touchdown where he's coming out of the backfield. And there's a whole bunch of things that he does that are Harold Fannin type plays. And I suppose there's a world where you can do it with both of them. But if he's doing Harold Fannin-like stuff, you already have Harold Fannin, and I question how that's going to go. So if your expectation is to get Denzel Boston, who maybe we'll figure out how to deal with press at some point, but you're going, this is my big-bodied X, and we're going to be good here. I have serious concerns about his ability to actually be that player based on the tape I've watched at Washington. I see more in terms of winning off the line of scrimmage from Concepcion, even though I'm not suggesting he's an X either. I just think he's a guy you can line up basically wherever you want. Yeah. Really good player. I get the stuff with the drops. People get mad about the drops. I thought he looked great in the combine workout.
Looks smooth.
And I continue to watch on tape. A lot of his drops are because he plays so fast that some of that will just happen because he's going so quickly. Because when he does it and he catches it, he's basically gone. And on top of everything else, I mean, his freshman year, he was 25% of NC State's offense. It's insane. That is more. And granted, Malachi Tony is special because he reclassified. It's a different dude. Nevertheless, I think his percentage was like around 20. As a true freshman, Casey Concepcion was 25% of the total offense for NC State, and a good NC State team. They were like 9-3. I think they beat Clemson. He had a big game against Clemson that year. Like, that stuff translates. And then I really like the fact that, like, which is what I suspected all along, but like, he was asked during the combine, is like, why'd you transfer to Texas A&M? It's like, I went there because I wanted to work and be developed as a pure wide receiver. Great. You can see it. Like, you can see him being utilized more things because as NC State, they used him basically like Percy Harvin. Yes, he caught a lot of passes, but they handed him the football and said, just go. Yeah. And then the other element. I
love him to return punts too.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns this year, returning punts, which is interesting. Denzel Boston also had 1 return for touchdown as a punt. But just another dynamic thing, which obviously the Browns need. And like, people get so hung up on drops, and I get it. He gets open so easily. It's nothing for him. And he just continuously is able to get open down the field, all over the field. And just if the name of the game is scoring points, Casey Concepcion has 31 career touchdowns. Carnell Tate has 15. Mekhi Lemon has 15. So combined, Casey Concepcion has more career touchdowns than the two of the top receivers, arguably the 2 top receivers in the entire draft. Again, like, stuff like that has to matter at some point, and you can cherry pick, or you can say that's cherry picking and saying, well, he's this and he's that.
He produces.
But that's the thing. Like, even on Texas A&M, Mario Craver and all these weapons at Texas A&M this year had 9 receiving touchdowns, and then the 2 punt return touchdowns. NC State, he was the offense and was able to be that guy. So, like, those are guys where I sit here and go, yeah, that's awesome. And when I sit here and the Monroe Freeland conversation is 6. Say they go that route. I'm sitting there pleading with whatever football, divine entities, make it so that kid hopefully can last to 24, because I would absolutely run the card up. But that's my big worry for somebody who's saying, I want to come out of this draft with a top level weapon, somebody who can really elevate this offense and hopefully set the table for everybody else. Carnell Tate, I think, is the easiest. I think Mekhi Lemon is sort of, not everybody's going to get it, but I think he can be that. And then Casey Concepcion, which is really interesting. And again, you just sort of think about playing it out there with having Concepcion and Judy and Fannin and Bond and all these other guys, Tillman, that, like, you get some really interesting combinations with that in terms of how you can attack the offense. And ultimately, this comes back to one question: what does Todd Monken want? But what I don't want to end up with, as much as I can hope it, I don't want to be sitting there talking about Omar Cooper at 24. If you can get him at 39, great. I still will be sitting here going, Well, you didn't get a number one receiver. I still have major reservations about this. I feel like we love Malachi Fields, which not, again, to me, not that guy, but I understand the appeal. That's where I sit here and go, and that's where I still sit here and go, I really hope that Carnell Tate is the dude at 6, if that's the easy way to go, and then you get one of these tackles at 24.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's ultimately where I'm at right now is Carnell Tate at number 6. I like his fit. I like that he's obviously taller. He needs to get stronger, but he's young. I feel like in 2 years, he'll probably be up to somewhere between the 205 and the 210 range, and he'll be a little more solid, a little more strong. I just think it makes too much sense. I really like Casey Concepcion as well, but I got to be honest with you, Pete. When I look at our top 3 receivers, and it's Jerry Jeudy, Casey Concepcion, and Isaiah Bond, I love that speed, but I mean, we're not playing in South Florida. We're not in a dome, not at least until 2029. That's not a starting receiver trio that gives me any sort of confidence about, handling the rigors of the AFC North.
That's it. I'm pushing back on this for one major reason. One, you're ignoring Harold Fandon. And by the way, the other thing I forgot about Concepcion, 196 pounds. Yeah. Again, he's got a test, but that is a good weight for him. He was thicker than both the other 2 guys, which is true. Yeah. Now, where I'm going to push back on you, where's Jerry Jeudy been his absolute best? Pittsburgh and weather.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that was with Jameis, all right? It's not fair.
It could be again.
Jameis is like a magician.
No, but even this year, this year when they beat the Steelers, Jerry Jeudy coming up with big plays.
Well, and the Denver game a year ago was in the snow. Yeah.
So, weirdly enough, Jerry Jeudy, his time to shine is when it's cold and awful.
Yeah. But look, I'm a Jerry Jeudy believer, okay? I give him the benefit of the doubt quite often, but he is not a guy. There's been a handful of snow games that he's been a dude. He's been here for 3 years, and he hasn't been, or 2 years, and he has not been a dude the whole time. All right?
No, I agree.
There's a lot of bad weather games where he pulls his disappearing act.
Without maligning anyone else, I get the suspicion that Casey Concepcion is very smart.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. Is there's nothing else there?
I'm not comparing anyone else
now that I'm assuming are stupid, Pete.
I'm not comparing him to anyone else on the Browns. I'm just saying that it seems like Casey Concepcion is very bright. And that might be a difference. That that allows him to reach a consistent ceiling that the other guy has not, that has been a little bit more inconsistent.
Okay. All right. That's fine enough. All right. I've got an interesting one for you. If we have to take a defensive player at 6, okay, who would you want?
That's tough because the reality is, the reality is, and this is part of the conversation I think is had here, isn't 6, it's 24. If you play out the scenario, and I will answer this eventually when I think, if you take Monroe Freeling at 6 and you're like, we're getting our left tackle, I could absolutely see a world where the Browns get their 24 and the receivers, the receivers have fallen off to the next tier.
Yeah.
And the Browns sit here and go, if it's Dylan Thieneman, if it's somehow still there at 24 and you're like, oh my God, this could be the center fielder we desperately need or something
like that.
What a
workout that kid.
I could see, that's where I sit here and go, I could see that being a thing where that's the wild card type thing where all of a sudden the board plays out a certain way and they could just simply double up on linemen and I wouldn't hate that either. But I'm just saying, I could see them play out a scenario. And obviously this is going to depend on what they do in free agency and if they make more trades and all this stuff. But they go Monroe Freeling at 6 or 9 or whatever, if they can manipulate that, which would be great. And then they go 24, man, there is some toy out there that fell, that's a really good player that we love, we think would be absolutely fit this defense, and we're going to grab him. and then come back at 39 and take another offensive lineman or something along those lines. And then, potentially maybe there's a value at wide receiver they like somewhere else or something, but I could see that being a thing. Now, as far as just if I have to take a defensive player in the top at the top pick, it's tough.
Because remember, you were captain of the Abdul Carter cheer squad.
Right, Abdul Carter was that guy.
You don't think that David Bailey is close? I mean, he might not have had the freaky workout numbers. He's a pretty damn good player, Pete.
No, he's not.
He's more of a 3-4 edge guy, right? A little bit.
So you can make the same argument for Abdul Carter in that sense. No, it's just David Bailey's production is good, really good. It's not that. It's not quite to that level, and his workout certainly helps him. I mean, he did great in that. So it might be David Bailey in that scenario, I guess.
You completely out on Ruben Bain?
I'm not out. It's just they have guys that do that.
Yeah.
Like, if you take Ruben Bain, what is Alex Wright now?
Yeah.
What is Isaiah McGuire? And obviously you could say, well, Isaiah McGuire's on an expiring contract. The Browns could theoretically trade him. Okay. You just signed Alex Wright to an extension to basically do a lot of the things you're asking Bain. Now you're hoping Bain is better, that his strength is so otherworldly that allows him to be just an absolute game record. So from that standpoint, it's probably David Bailey. The Sonny Styles conversation is interesting to me because I look at Sonny Styles and all the stuff he does, and I sit there and go, man, all these things I want to do with him aren't linebacker. I want to put him in the slot. I want him to do all these other things. I want him to basically blitz like Devin Witherspoon off the slot and just terrorize people. So I guess from that standpoint, the answer's got to be David Bailey. Or if you're saying Arvell Reese, you're like, well, he's a base linebacker. You're basically making the Abdul Carter pitch with him, where you're saying, well, on base downs, he can theoretically be a linebacker and then move down to play on the edge. Yeah, except Arvell Reese doesn't have the snaps on the edge to say this is a great idea. I think it's too much of a hope, and he maybe will be great at it because he's so skilled and he's talented and all these other things.
Yeah.
But I would not feel great about that. So for those reasons, I would probably end up on David Bailey because he gives you that true pass rush, just nightmare threat on the opposite side of Myles Garrett that, that was one of the main appeals for Abdul Carter. He's just not quite that guy, but he could absolutely be a menace in that capacity.
Yeah. Now, a player who I've been bringing up, and I had dreams of getting him in the third round, was Jacob Rodriguez for Texas Tech. That kid put together a damn good workout. There's no way he gets out of round 2.
We'll see. The thing that hurts him in as much as anything can is there's just a lot of linebackers, and it's just a question of when are they going to go. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, it is close to a surprise as there was in the combine. It was him, but like then if having watched him play, you're like, well, yeah, why wouldn't he be all these things? Yeah. I think there's a mustache tax that's people are trying to lay on him. He's got that big fireman stash, and they're like, can't be this
tax that I would get behind. All right,
cannot be this good. Cannot be this athletic with that stash. There's got to be wind resistance or something. But yeah, he's crushing it in terms of all the other stuff. The only thing you sit there and go, I don't love it, is age. And okay, like I get it, but the other stuff is just so impactful. My larger problem is just paying premium assets for more linebackers. I hate it so much. And there's going to be guys on day 3. There always are. They're going to be really good, really talented. They can come in and play, just on, between his athletic combine stuff and just casually watching his tape. One of them that's really intriguing to me is Caleb Elam's-Orr from TCU, who stands out as a day 3 guy. Or I'd like to see more tape on him, but the kid from Buffalo, Red Murdoch, he had Sean Dolak last year was, I think, an undrafted free agent. Red Murdoch has the same similar situation, tested pretty well, really, really productive. And linebacker is one of those things where I think people make the projection harder than it needs to be. just get guys who find a way to the football consistently.
Yeah.
Don't mess around with guys who don't. And you try to project some of that stuff. Like, those are guys that just consistently find their way to the football. And that's why I think you can get guys that are undrafted free agents and you're just like, who gets the ball? Because so much of, obviously, athleticism matters. It allows you to do certain things at that position. Keyshawn Elliott's another one that I think is pretty good, really good at playing linebacker. Now, all these guys are going to have more questions with coverage stuff.
Yeah.
But so much of it is being able to read and react quickly. And it's less about your physical speed and your ability to just go and see it and go. And there are always guys like that. We see it all over the place. TJ Edwards is a great example. I loved him coming out of Wisconsin, undrafted, helps the Eagles get the Super Bowl. And then he signed a massive contract. Yeah. And then, like, okay, he leaves. I move on to the next one. Like, there are always guys like that. And they've already got Schlesinger, who's great. And that's the other problem I have with Sonny Styles. It's not Sonny Styles' fault, but if you're taking a linebacker that high, he has to, like,
he's got to be the dude. He's got to be the every down. Yeah.
Floor has to be what Schlesinger's rookie year was, or people are going to be like, what is this guy doing? Like, that is so tough to just validate that selection. He's got to be a superstar. Like, if you're not talking about a guy who's going to be threatening for the all pros, with that pick, you're just like, what did I even do this for?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Caleb Downs, right? So all the rumors out of the combine are that he's got a degenerative ACL and a partially torn meniscus. I mean, this strikes me as silly season, Phil, oh my gosh, how am I forgetting his name? The petrified feet.
Oh, Phil Taylor.
Phil
yes.
Taylor.
That's the best. That's the best rumor ever. Nothing will ever top the idea that Phil Taylor had feet that were slowly petrifying.
Like, I mean, am I crazy, or is it like the Chargers at 22 that are just like, man, we could really use a safety after we gave Gilman away? What can we say about Caleb Downs? Or do you think this is legit? Do you think it has legs? And when will we find out that it's legit? Is it this type of thing that if he falls on draft day, we'll know?
But that's certainly going to be part of it. The extent of what I believe is that he's been flagged to go to the medical recheck.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I'm not going to speculate on anything else. But apparently there's something there that the NFL teams said, we want to take another look at this in a month. So, because if he's got something that's like partially torn,
yeah,
one would think that he's going to have to get surgery or something along those lines, or there's something that's going to happen. As far as degenerative anything, that's the part where you sit there and go, oof, you want to really play that out and see if that's really the deal. And what does that really mean? And how does that fit the projection? But the fact that he's flagged, yeah, that happens. Could it mean something? Yeah, it could. We'll see what it does and how it impacts him. But like, the other reason I'm not going to freak out about it, other than the fact that he just seems like a absolutely wonderful kid, listening to him talk, is he shouldn't be part of the Browns conversation anyway. So I don't have to get too worked up about the possibility of, does this happen? Now, it would irritate me because I would like him to go before 6, just because that means something else isn't. But yeah, flagged. We'll see what comes out, if anything, or if we're going to be talking about, well, Caleb Downs has to do this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And we did this with Abdul Carter last year. Abdul Carter had it was
a foot thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had a spot in his foot that people were worried was going to be a stress fracture, and people claimed he was going to. People were claiming that he was going to be permanently injured for the extent of his career, and that he'd never play football again. Some people even suggest the thing was going to be cut off. And the reality is, just because of the way he turns on his feet, the way he bends, just wear and tear sort of weakened that area of his foot. It healed up fine. He was perfectly fine. I just remember all these people like pushing back. Well, we can't take Abdul Carter. He's going to miss all this time. He didn't miss any time other than for whatever he did that warranted the Giants to sit him down.
Which rumors are pretty spicy, Pete. Let me just tell you.
If they don't want him,
we'll take him.
That's
we
no problem.
have no problem with that sort of issue.
Todd Buchan can figure that out. So yeah, I mean, he had the medical recheck thing and was fine. So I hope that is the situation for Caleb Downs because he just seems like an awesome kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to see what happens.
Well, bouncing back to when we were talking about linebacker, if the Browns aren't able to figure something out longer term with Devin Bush, he hits the market and somebody overpays. How important is it to you that the Browns do something of, substance to fill that spot? Are you okay with like a mid-round draft pick competing with, Mo Diabate and what's his name from Mississippi State, Nathaniel Watson, maybe Winston Reed?
Yeah, I think they will sign a free agent.
Yeah,
I think the guy they will get on the phone the second that they feel like Devin Bush is going to be back is Quincy Williams.
I thought you were going to say Caden Ellis. But I was thinking Quincy Williams too, because
Caden certainly makes sense. But Quincy Williams is he checks so many boxes for this.
Yep.
Because he played for the Jets. He wants the hell out of there because when they traded Quincy Williams, they just benched him.
His brother.
Yeah, they trade your brother and then turn around. By the way, you're on the bench.
Yeah.
When Rutenberg was the linebackers coach with the Jets, he tore it up. He's outstanding for them. He had like 2,200 snaps with him and CJ Mosley.
He's explosive, man. He's like a stick of dynamite, dude. He flies all over the field. I like Quincy Williams.
Which is one of the big elements which made Devin Bush such an attractive piece to this whole thing. Yeah. So I think Rutenberg's gonna get on the horn and be like, "Hey, listen, New York sucks. I got out of there too. Come to Cleveland.
Look at this front line I've got you to play behind."
And I think Quincy Williams is going to be like, I know what the scheme does. I see the dudes up front, and I'm going to fly around and I'm going to eat. Yep. And I don't know if he will necessarily get back to where he was 2 years ago, but I think he's the perfect guy for them to go out and go, hey, listen, man, we can make this work.
All they have to do is show him Devin Bush the last 2 years. This is what we did for him. This is the opportunity that you have.
Rutenberg, when he was with the Jets, their linebackers were outstanding. Like when he was the linebackers coach, they were really good. Yeah. So, and maybe there's another guy he has a similar view of, but it's always easy when you go, I know this guy. He was great for me. We're going to play a system that makes all the sense of the world. It's going to put him in position to succeed, call him up, and they could bring in another guy with him. But I think Quincy Williams could be a very quick phone call for them to be like, yep, we want you. Come in, compete for Will, and we're going to make this happen.
Yeah, no, I would be all about that. It's funny. I was, looking at the free agency list and trying to find, connections at certain spots of need. Like we already connected Charlie Kohler. We've got Linderbaum on the offensive line. We got that Daniel Falele on the offensive line that has and I know that you love him, but it's still a guy that has experience with the line coach, with the head coach.
Giant falafel at right guard that does not do anything.
How about for if we don't figure anything out with Martin Emerson? I know he's a little older than we usually do, but how would you feel about D. Alford coming over from Atlanta into the secondary room?
I mean, if they want to get somebody who's at least played some football, I get it. Again, those connections matter. Like we always go, I want to go and get player X or whatever. And then like, they just like, hey dude, want to come play for me again? They're like, yeah. So I could see it. Certainly, I think the Browns are going to want to do something before the draft because my inclination would be draft a corner, but like you can't wait. You can't be there like, hey, we'll see how this goes. By the way, you might stay unsigned for the next 7 weeks. So yeah, I mean that could be a decent option for them. I mean, they need to get something depth wise because at some point Denzel Ward's going to miss time. You hope Tyson Campbell never misses time and plays here for 30 more years. I will sign him to that contract if he can do it. I love Tyson Campbell so much.
Yeah.
So if it's D. Alford, that would certainly be interesting from that standpoint.
And he's got slot experience too, doesn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. It's easy. I guess that's always valuable because I don't think they want to pay. I think they want a real corner.
Yeah.
But I don't think they want to. I think they desperately want to try to avoid paying, premium dollars for it, because that's really difficult to do.
Well, you look at their starters. Both former first-round picks. Denzel's on a big deal. Campbell's on a decent deal. So it's not a ton of money to go around with the.
Campbell will be great with the Jaguars for a while, for at least one more year. So they do have some flexibility, but that's flexibility they have to use everywhere. So yeah. I mean, the answer might be sign a guy like D. Alford and then try to get somebody in the draft that can sort of eventually just beat him out. But yeah, I can't see them sitting tight. I am genuinely curious to see what's going to happen with Greg Newsome. To see if he's going to cash in the way he hopes, or if he's going to end up being sort of a guy who's like trying to get another 1-year deal somewhere. And if like the Browns are like, hey, you want to come back? So yeah, and no, I don't think he would. But so yeah, D. Alford makes sense. It's not exciting by any stretch, but
that's kind of the position we're in, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that's been Andrew Berry's MO since he's been there. Whenever there's a hole pre-draft, and we're probably going to fill it in the draft, he's going to sign a 1-year veteran prove-it deal to raise the floor of that position. And if we could do better in the draft, we will. I feel like that's going to be the majority of our signings. We traded a 5th for Titus Howard, and we were able to extend him there. But I feel like maybe we get one free agent of legitimate note, that we pay a hefty salary to, and that's a maybe. I think most of these guys are going to be 1-year prove-it deals.
Which I approve of. And that's my thing with the offensive line is if I can get Elijah Vera Tucker for a $10 million deal for a year, if I can get Braxton Jones for a year, if I can get Tevin Jenkins back on basically the same deal he's just on for a year, that's fine, because then it allows me to sort of go into the draft, collect pieces that I can sort of figure out, not be forced into anything, and then build from there. Obviously, look, I think I would obviously make my pitch to Tyler Linderbaum, see where that goes.
Yeah.
I don't think Charlie Kolar is going to demand a ton of money, but I certainly hope the Browns are able to get him.
Yeah.
But after that, it's sort of I want to maximize as many of these guys who are coming off injuries or whatever to try to piece this thing together and then draft the guys that are really going to matter, but just not be forced into anything and allow you to play the board the way you want. And then just build the team that way, because when they've done it that way, that has been more successful. And certainly their draft this past year was super successful. So if they can just recreate that, even if it doesn't, this is why I throw out things like 24 on defense could be a wild card thing that happens out there. You're just we found a great opportunity and we're taking it. And you're just okay. Mason Graham last year, and Garson Schwessinger to a large extent, but I sit here and I look at this draft class at defensive tackle, and I'm like, man, I'm glad they have Mason Graham. So if it allows them to sort of play the board in a way that sort of knocks out some of these things, great. Obviously, I have my rooting interest in terms of offensive line, and receiver, which I had last year, but we'll see.
Pete, let me ask you this. I think that Caleb Banks is going to go way higher than he should.
I think
he's going top 15, easy.
I think he's going to
be a big human being, man, and he moves really, really well. And I feel like obviously the whole reason you're making this pick is because you feel like his best football is in front of him, right? But 6'6", 330 with nice feet, dude. If he's got any sort of mean streak, I could see just about any defensive coordinator in the NFL licking their chops at a guy like that. And that's been all the rage, right? Everybody's been pounding the table about the interior pressure from defensive tackles and how those guys can wreck games. I mean, he might be top 10.
I think he's going to be a Bengal.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, that would make a ton of sense for sure.
Huge risk, but that's who you are. You're the Bengals. You have to take some big swings because of the way your operation works. Yeah. He's a huge swing. It could blow up in their face, but he could also be every bit of Geno Atkins for you.
Yep.
In terms of just that mammoth pressure guy who literally their game. Geno, that dude won games for that team. So yeah,
wasn't he a 7th round pick too? Well, he was a way late pick.
No, third.
Was he third?
Yeah.
It's worth a Google. I'll let you know in just a second, buddy.
But
I thought he was not third day. It was third day at the time.
But yeah, like he is the type of swing that if you're the Bengals and you're sitting going, man, we don't have a lot of time in terms of these guys. We don't keep everybody. We got to get maximize impact, even if that means taking on a little risk. It would not shock me at all. I'm frankly terrified of that because if he is good, the Browns are going to have to deal with him twice a year on that interior, and they're going to have to really, really beef up. And that's in a division where, Matt Wike seems to be coming back. The Steelers have Cam Hayward and a bunch of first-round picks on the interior. That's going to be a big focus for them. That's obviously reasons I hope they're able to get a guy like Linderbaum, but they've got to get real guards, real center, if they're going to be successful. And is that going to be, I would like that to be more of the free agent element, like Elijah Vera Tucker being, a guard would be great. If it's not Linderbaum, is there going to be somebody else that they feel like is good for that? Are they going to try to make a play for somebody else who can come in and play guard that beefs them up and gives them the ability to run the football in the way they haven't been? But that is a scenario that worries me. That's a scenario that makes sense. I mean, if Reuben Bain were to fall to them, I think they would take him. But like, if they're just sitting there going, or if the Downs thing is a real thing, and he, either he's gone before them or they don't want to mess with his medical stuff. If that's a thing, I could absolutely see them take Caleb Downs and be like, you guys have to deal with this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just had something. All right, so next Tuesday, we're kicking off free agency, right? So I was thinking we could go through some of these final free agency lists at some positions of need and kind of go over guys that either, catch your fancy or absolutely no way, no how. Now, I think we both agree that there's a pretty good chance that they make another deal before free agency kicks off. Now, we talk when we're talking trades, we've talked about Brian Thomas Jr. at length, right? Are there any other wide receivers that you're hearing rumors about that would pique your interest for the Browns if they could be had for the right price? The popular ones are always Buckeyes, right? Like Chris Olave and Marvin Harrison. But is there anybody else that you're thinking you've heard he might be on the chopping block? You like his game? You think he could fit?
The only receiver that really interests me in that category is Brian Thomas Jr.
Right? Because that kind of solves the one need that we have. We need a dude, right?
Right. Well, that, and then it eliminates the whole conversation about, well, we don't have a top of the line guy, and we feel like we really want to get the offensive line prioritized, and so we're gonna fix it with this. So if we can get ahead of this and we can get a guy who's 24 years old, who had a 1,200-yard rookie year, who's 6'3", 200 some odd pounds, and ran a 4.3, exactly what he is. The Jags de-emphasized him over the course of the year, and they don't have to move him. But like if it's a second round, like 39 and a swap of something for Brian Thomas Jr. and that I could see being a really smart course of action, because the Browns obviously want to get like guys who are going to have their career in front of them, not behind. So like, AJ Brown to me is not appealing. If it's DJ Moore, you're hoping it's the Amari Cooper trade over again, but you're still running the same problem. He's 28 or whatever. And it's a short-term fix. Maybe I get it. But if I really want to do this and I want to get a guy, who's going to be here where I feel like he's a good fit. And that part needs to be parsed out and figured out. But like, just in terms of, you have Jerry Jeudy, you want to make him a real number two. Not to say that Brian Thomas is necessarily proven to be a number one, but he has been a number one in a season where he was dominant. So it's not, and it's also not the Marvin Harrison conversation, which I think is cost prohibitive. And two, he's not been good. No. He's been okay, but you're still waiting to break out. Like Brian Thomas Jr. has at least been a good, very, very, very good receiver for a season. He's only played two. The second one, he basically been Jerry Jeudy to this point, which is great season, then not a great season. That's the type of bet I'd rather make.
Well, let me ask you this now, because we've got Turtle in the chat is asking, would we give up the number 24 pick for Brian Thomas Jr.?
No.
Plus maybe a fifth. So I don't think he's worth that. I feel like you have a guy that absolutely dominated half of his rookie season in basically a broken year with a backup quarterback, right? He then, with a full off season and all the expectations as being the number one, fell flat on his face. He did not perform last year. And for whatever reason that may be, whether it's off the field stuff that, got into his head or differences with coaching staff, or just he's not on the same page with Trevor Lawrence, which is what I think is the biggest thing. Whatever it is, you still have a guy who's been in the NFL for 2 years. Granted, he's young and he's got, his best days ahead of him. But you're talking about a small sample size, and I feel like giving up a first round pick for a guy like that, you're going to have to pay him in a year. I don't think it's going to cost anywhere near a first round pick. Personally,
that's the hang up for me. It's the contract. You're in year 3 of the contract, and then you're already sort of like hinting at the fact that you're extending the guy. Yes, you could theoretically go the last 2 years of his contract and pick up the 5th-year option. That's a theoretical idea.
Yeah.
But I think that's the hang up is I don't want to give up 24 on a guy who's partway through his contract. Same thing with Marcus Harrison Jr. I don't want to give up a first-round pick. That's where I sit here and go second-round pick, maybe getting something back on the other end in terms of the swap, if it's a late-round pick in next year or something or whatever.
Yeah.
That's where I sit here and go, okay, now we're talking. Because here's the other thing. Like, if the Jaguars aren't really going to use him, they are motivated to try to maximize that.
Because his value is only going to go down.
It's not to say they're in a weak position, because they aren't. Because they could keep him, they could put him in the offense, and he could go off and be great.
Yeah.
But they have Parker Washington, who's crushing it. Was the number 1 receiver. They signed Jacoby Myers to a contract extension after trading for him. They have Brenton Strange, who is a big part of that. And then you have this whole Travis Hunter thing where, like, theoretically, if Brian Thomas Jr. is there, maybe he's just going to be a corner. Maybe if Brian Thomas Jr. is moved, then maybe he's more of a receiver. But you do have the flexibility to sort of like we can mess around with this.
Yeah.
They don't have to move him, but there might be a sweet spot where that's good. Now, the other part about this is Andrew Berry's negotiating this deal with James Gladstone, so maybe it will be really cheap and he'll give up
they
7.
just give them to us.
Yeah, it just bends over. But no, that's where I think second round pick is where the conversation starts, and it's about mitigating that. And then at that point, the Browns can sit here and go, we're going to take like Francis Mauigoa at 6 and take Caleb Lomu at 24, or we're going to take Monroe Freeling at 6, and we're going to see, if Spencer Fano or one of these other guys is sitting there, another line missing there, 24, and we are really going to beef this thing up for whoever's the quarterback of this team, and we are really going to try to put them in a good position to succeed right now.
All right. So let's go over these free agency lists for our positions of need and our positions of interest. Now, this is from Yahoo Sports, and this is post-franchise tag. So this is as updated a list as we could hope for. All right. So it's a top 10 of each position, right? So quarterbacks, we've got Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. Malik Willis is number 2. Aaron Rodgers is number 3. Kirk Cousins is number 4. Marcus Mariota, 5. Russell Wilson, 6. Joe Flacco, 7. Carson Wentz, 8. Tyrod Taylor, 9. So maybe it's just the top 9. Any names on that list make you pause for any time at all?
No. In fact, what's funny is like the most appealing guy in that list to me is completely unworkable because he can't stay healthy, and that's Tyrod Taylor. Like, I could see an argument for that, but no, there's nothing there where I sit here and go, yeah. I mean, look, they can make their pitch to Malik Willis. Mm-hmm. That makes all the sense in the world to say, we're a serious organization. We're going to make a serious play for you. And ultimately we're going to let you make that decision. Okay, fine. Malik Willis is not going to come here. It's just not. he's going to have better opportunities to go elsewhere. They're going to be like, hey, this is a really successful offense, and you can plug right in, as opposed to, hey, we've got Titus Howard, and we're going to try to figure out the rest of it. Just hang in there. It'll be good, I promise. Like, I just don't think that's a workable offer. So based on that, like, I understand them making a pitch. I don't understand how the hell you get him at 2 behind Kyler Murray, but whatever. So for that reason, I'm out on all of those names. Everybody else, everybody I like for quarterback is currently under contract.
Yeah. And that's headlined by Geno Smith.
Geno Smith,
Jacoby
Brissett, and Jameis Winston are the guys who jump out to me the most.
Yeah, agreed. I love that list. And I feel like it's almost the same guy, all three of them. They're all veterans. They're all professionals, and they can all spread it, man. They can all throw the football really, really well.
Well, my argument has been, and I'm telling you, people do not watch Geno Smith play football. He is what everybody hopes Shedeur Sanders will be someday.
And that's the whole thing, Pete. It's all about what have you done for me lately. And the last time we saw him, we were destroying him with a horrible offense around him. There's a reason they have the #1 pick. It was the worst team in football by far.
That's true. He took 20 hits, and he still threw the hell out of the ball in that game.
He did. I agree.
But yes, all the stuff people think Sanders does or hope he can do, Geno Smith does it with a better arm. He's more athletic, more mobile, and he knows where to look.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think, because last week in my mock, I had the Browns flipping a 5th for a 7th and Jameis Winston. Do you think that's like a reasonable deal for each of these guys? Or like what price would you pay to get one of these guys in the building?
I think that's entirely a reasonable price to pay for any of them. Like that would be fine for me. Or just flip the 5th. I don't, I'd love to get a 7th back, but yeah.
Yeah, no, of course.
If you can knock out your quarterback job with a 5th round pick for a year, great. Like, okay.
Think about it. With Brissett in Arizona, the word is LaFleur is almost guaranteed to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And
that's the other part that's really interesting about that.
Yeah. And then you go up to New York, and I mean Matt Nagy's got experience with Carson Wentz. Matt Nagy's got experience now with Gardner Minshew, who I know he's recovering from a knee injury, but maybe he wants a vet that he knows and knows his offense and coaching style to come in and work with, Yeah,
which is usually the case. Now, I still don't know whatever really happened with Gardner Minshew's knee, because at one point it was a torn ACL, and they're like, well, not really. It wasn't a torn ACL, but it's kind of really hurt, and then it was like sort of just disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, I agree with you.
Draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, coaches are going to get guys they're comfortable with. And yeah, it seems like a lock that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to end up in Arizona. And if they can get Malik Willis or Geno Smith, which is annoying that I'm hearing Minnesota and Arizona are being linked to Geno Smith as well.
Yeah.
And if he's cut, the Browns are boned.
Yeah. 200%.
Yeah. But like, if they're really doing that, then yeah, they're not going to want to pay Jacoby Brissett that money. He's got a very reasonable deal, especially for a starting quarterback. In fact, the Browns might could trade him and then give him more money. Just be like, here, you're going to be the starting quarterback. You get more money. But yeah, like Jacoby Brissett would be more than fine with this. I know he's not exciting, and occasionally he does some dumb shit, but he's extremely good in the locker room. He's a professional, and with the defense they have, if you can build up the line of scrimmage and get some weapons, like, you can be really interesting. And he may be a guy, especially coming off the season he just had, where he's just sort of like hitting his little golden era of old guy, good at quarterback stuff.
Well, honestly, Pete, isn't that the position? I feel like this is like my biggest struggle when it comes to young quarterbacks and drafting a guy and finding the guy. Unless they are just like, you can't even remotely question it. They're so good so early. Every one of these young guys goes through the trials and tribulations of being a starter. There's peaks and there's valleys. And these guys don't even begin to step into their potential until 3-4 years down the road. It's so hard. If you don't have a plan in place for a guy and you don't have a decent team around him, we've seen it for years. You're drafting these guys for the next team that gets them. That's just how the position is. And that's my biggest draw to Malik Willis. And that's the biggest thing. And I'm with you in the sense that, like, I don't think the Browns are going to get him. I think, he's going to be priced out of their range, even though I don't think he's going to get quite as much as people do. But I also think that he's just got better opportunities to go to, and I think he's going to do that. But if he did choose to come to Cleveland, I got to tell you, man, the idea of a guy who mentally is ready to step into the role, okay? He's physically, he's as talented as any quarterback in football. He's built well, he's very fast, and he has a howitzer on his shoulder. If you get all the mentals figured out with him, which it seems like it's trending in the right direction, he's 25? He's 25.
Yeah, he's young. I mean, he came out, he was super young. Yeah. So,
yeah. Like I feel like that is such a very, that's a strong calculated risk to me. You got a guy with all that potential, and he's, I don't want to say proven, but he's shown in the last couple of years that he can run a talented NFL offense in big spots, and he can do it efficiently. He can protect the football, and he can make plays.
What's weird is it's a strange argument for taking non-first round quarterbacks, because if you take first round quarterbacks, even if they don't do anything, like the contract demands and what's expected to pay them goes up substantially because what ends up happening is you take a guy in the first round, you get to the 5th year option and you pick it up if you're not sure. And then the next step is, well, I have to pay him like
50,
like an insane amount of money. It's not like they go, oh, well, okay, I just go back down to a normal salary and it's okay. Then I'll just be fine. Like it never works out that way. But
no,
obviously the Malik Willis situation is different because he was traded, but like you can draft a mid-round quarterback. And if they're, good enough to sort of hang around, you can sign them to a second contract that's reasonable and continue to see if they're going to figure it out. Now, it's not great in terms of like being able to really get what you want, in terms of an answer quickly, but it's just an interesting thing that like first round quarterbacks have a natural expiration just by virtue of how contracts work.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's basically what happened with Malik Willis is Tennessee took him, and Tennessee wasn't a good organization. They didn't develop him well. They didn't have a great plan for him. They bailed on him after a year, and they drafted Will Levis in the top of the 2nd. Then they bailed on him after 2 years, and they, got Cam Ward. But each of these 3 guys look the same because the team around them and the coaching around them isn't good, So it's like you're almost better off letting a team draft these guys and get all the bad years out of the way.
Their coaching probably wasn't good. The situation wasn't good, but the other part you just don't know is what's their development arc.
Yeah,
what do they really need? Clearly Malik Willis needed time.
Mm-hmm.
He needed, remember, a lot of people were talking about it, loving him when he came out. Some people thought, that he should go in the
first. Pittsburgh was going to take him in the first.
So I get it, but it's clear he needed time. Now, going to Green Bay was great for him. It's always great for you. You go to a team that has a quarterback and no owner. It's great. I envy them all the time on that. But like that, the development curve element is difficult to sort of parse out for people. And like, that's where, I'll use Shedeur Sanders as an example. Like when I evaluated him, I said 2 years. It's either he could be a long-term starter in 2 years or out of the league in 2 years. And what happened? He's on the field as a rookie and he looked like crap for the most part. Tennessee game notwithstanding, he looked bad.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen because he's, if I am accurate, if my assessment is accurate, and it could be, I could be leaving him short. I could be, overestimating whatever. But like he may need those 2 years to sort of figure it out. Now the Browns can't really wait around to sort of see if that's true. But like you're just like, throw him out there and see if he can do it.
Yeah, but think about what you said. You said 2 years, right? And then what was it? 9 games, 10 games in, the Browns pull the cake out of the oven. They're like, well, shit, this isn't done. I know it's not done. It had another 45 minutes to bake. No, trust me, I agree. And I get it. It's such a weird slippery slope with quarterback because there are so many stars that need to align to get through a clean rookie contract and get that extension. There's so many.
Right.
That's hard to do, man. That really,
Well,
really
like
is.
there are people who desperately want the Browns to get Drew Aller, and I'm just sitting here going, listen, man, he cannot play for like multiple seasons. He needs to sit there and just work on being a quarterback. And like, it just doesn't happen here. Not like that. I wish it would. I wish people could just sort of be like, okay, we're going to see you in a couple of years and see what happens.
Yep.
They can't do it. That's some of that is the Browns don't have the ability to get a good enough starting quarterback. And so they're left to sort of just throw stuff at the wall and hope something sticks.
Yeah.
But like, this is why, obviously if you have a really good quarterback, it's such a luxury because of what it allows you to do.
Yeah.
Because Green Bay could draft Drew Aller and you're just like, yep, great. Love it. Love it for that.
Yeah.
Or Buffalo could take Drew Aller and you're just like, yep, awesome.
Yeah.
And then in 3 years, maybe he may not, but if he turns into something, you're like, well, of course he did, because he just got to go there and just do his thing and get better.
Yep. No, I agree completely. Now, let me ask you this, because this is something that I argue with people about. I mean, you and I have kind of butted heads about it, because I don't necessarily want to throw them into a competition. Or I'm sorry, I don't want to throw Shedeur into a competition, right? I don't think he's in a spot right now where he can beat out a veteran quarterback in a competition. I just don't. But it's like, you have to take something of a leap of faith. That's the position you kind of do. And I mean, I'm not saying, sign him to a 7-year extension and, put it in ink that he can't not be the starter. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying take the leap of faith that identifies this is the young quarterback with talent on my roster right now, and I want to see what he can do. I'm planning on this 2027 plunge to get my guy anyway, but I legitimately want to see if this guy's going to be reason enough for me to look somewhere else. And don't get me wrong, I agree with the idea of bringing in Geno Smith or bringing in Brissett or Jameis Winston and starting them and just being competitive and be like, let's win as many games as possible. Let's go. I get that. But I also doesn't think that gets us where we want to be long-term, which is a long-term quarterback. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I want Shedeur to start. I don't think he's going to outduel Geno Smith. He shouldn't. Geno Smith's got 13 years on him. Geno Smith should take him behind the woodshed in a competition. That's just how it is right now. But Geno Smith in 2 years could be an inferior player to Shedeur Sanders, which makes me think I want to see what Shedeur can do. I want to see him with a full camp and a full preseason, and then the first month of the year before I'm like, you know what? This is not worth it. He's holding the team back. We need to bring in the veteran to right the ship and get this thing going. That's for me. And if we drafted Ty Simpson, I would want them to do the same damn thing. Like, scratch that. I don't want to start Ty Simpson as a rookie, but you get what I mean. Like, I don't want, to go into year 2 with Ty when he should be starting. But let's bring in some competition, make him earn it. No. That's not a position that you want to compete for every single year. You need a guy. You need a leader of your offense in the organization. They need reps. They need comfortability in the offense, mastery of the offense. And I'm not sure you're going to get that with competitions.
I want competition. I'll just look at the 49ers and go, they brought in Brock Purdy as a 7th-round pick, and he just earned it.
Yeah.
Further, specifically as the issues relate to Shedeur Sanders, I think that would be good for him. I think he is somebody who can benefit from doing all these people. They're the first team reps and all the script. He could benefit the stuff he needs to improve upon. He can improve doing third team reps. So much of it is being able to read and diagnose what defense is doing, having his eyes in the right place, and then just executing consistent mechanics on all of his stuff. He can do that against any competition with any competition. That part's irrelevant to me. So I think your argument has a better case to be made if the quarterback in question issues were entirely, we need to get him experience. I think that would be part of the equation with Sanders, but so much of it is the stuff. And the reality is, like, a lot of what I'm talking about, he could be doing right this second. He could be crushing it right this second, and that'd be awesome, because they are things he can legitimately just get better at. Being able to diagnose, anticipate stuff like that, know where he's got to go, all that stuff, and just getting a better understanding of the game. So when it comes to him, I don't need to force him into the lineup because he can get better at all those things. And he might get better watching a Geno Smith or having a Jacoby Brissett be in the quarterback room and telling him all this stuff. I understand that he wants to compete. I understand that he says he's a tactile learner. I'm not going to tell him how he learns. I get all that. But like, yeah, I want that. I want a competition. I want him to best somebody. I want him to get the pelt that says I should be the starting quarterback. I want not only for him to do that for himself, I want him to do that for everybody else in the locker room. I want them to see I have done this thing. I win. That's why you guys trust me to run the offense. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but I'm not going to bury the kid before he's dead either. I want to see what he can do.
Yeah.
The one thing I do want him to do is when the Browns start throwing the ball around in the spring, I want you to bury Deshaun Watson. That's all I want. Just bury him.
I don't even think he's going to have to. I think Watson's going to bury himself. That
would be great.
Yeah.
That would be perfectly acceptable from that standpoint too. But I want him to be like, no, this is not happening. And just be like, I'm going to beat him. I'm going to beat his ass. I don't care if it's OTAs. Like,
look, I get what you're saying there, and I agree with it. All right, but there's also kind of a caveat to my take on this, and to Phil in the chat, I get that he was a 5th round developmental quarterback, and I'm not trying to name him the starter for the entire season or anything like that. But I feel like we've seen enough from him physically, and I'm a big fan of his ability to throw the football downfield. And what we have available to us this offseason for young guys and veterans, he's one of the most interesting names for me. And we have him in tow. So it's not even that I want to, just give him the job or whatever, is I want to actually see what he's capable of doing. And I want him to be comfortable and I want him to be confident and all of that stuff. Not to mention the fact, and this is probably the biggest thing behind it, I feel like whether it's Jameis or Geno Smith or Jacoby Brissett, or if we signed Kirk Cousins or any of these guys, I feel like those guys are going to take us further away from finding a franchise quarterback.
Yes, you're worried you're going to win too much.
If Shedeur fails, that's probably going to get us right to where we need to be.
Yes.
And I know that this fan base is so done with tanking and they just want to win and this, that, or the other. I get it. I get it completely. That's one of the positives to me. I would hate. Look at where we're at right now. The only reason we're not talking about building around Fernando Mendoza is because we got 2 cheap wins at the end of the year that did nothing for the team.
Yes, one of which was apparently done after Stefanski was informed.
Right? What are we doing? Like, I get it, man.
Just devastating.
Devastating.
Yeah, I can't tell this locker room to just be like, yeah, we're just gonna do it and roll it out and hope it works. I can't.
I get it, man. I get it completely. And it's easy for me to say that because I'm not in that locker room. I get to watch the movie. I don't have to live the movie.
Well, that's the thing. It's just like enduring that is absolute hell from having to do that every day. I want them to win because you've seen it done many times where winning teams trade up and get their guy if they need to. More importantly, I just want this team to feel like it's a real team that people want to play for and gets attracted to. So like, yes, obviously my preference is that they draft a great quarterback in 2027. But for the sake of argument, let's say there's a Malik Willis in 2027. If the Browns do well or well enough, and they've built this thing up around whoever, and Jacoby Brissett can get them to whatever, or Geno Smith can make them competitive, and then you can get the Sam Darnold or the Malik Willis or whoever it is that year that you're like, yeah, this is the guy. Again, I'd rather draft that guy and all those things. But even if that's the case, I want them to come into a good situation and not be like, all right, come save us because we suck and all these other things. So I just can't do it. It's so awful to watch this team and be like, yeah, I hope they lose and tank it out, and because they're bad at that. I Kevin Stefanski was just too good. It's a damn job. We couldn't just say, "Hey, Hugh, come in for a couple games and really figure this thing out." It makes me so bitter about the fact that they fired him. But whatever.
That's the one thing you never gave Hugh Jackson enough credit for. That man could tank, baby. That man got us the number one pick 2 years in a row, Pete.
I have vivid memories of how they lost the game to the Steelers to get Myles Garrett. Isaiah Crowell fumbles the ball at like the 1. Was it Lee Bodden who caught an interception and fumbled it out of the end zone for a touchback?
No way. No way Bodden was still on the team.
No, there was somebody. There was some corner on this team who caught it. Yeah, you're right. It couldn't have been Lee Bodden.
Was it McCourty? McCourty was on that team.
But there was an interception, literally fumbled out for a touchback. You're like, I think they missed a field goal. Like, these are the clutch plays. I'm just like, give that man a bonus check.
That's what I thought the Shador interception in the Pittsburgh game was going to be. I was like, he did it. He did it.
Yeah. But the amount, just the clutch plays that came in to ensure the Browns were in position to get Myles Garrett, it was unbelievable. It was absolute cinema watching that game play out. You're just like, they could not.
Hugh jumped into a lake for that number 1 pick.
It lost his shorts. Shorts fell.
He did. You remember the team made like a whole video about like, why would you do that? My God. Oh my God.
What really stuck out to me, not a single assistant coach. It was like accountants and people they dragged into the lake. It was people who like filing clerks and all this stuff are like, get in there.
Because every other coach is like, you said that, dude, not me. I'm not diving in the lake.
Yeah. So yeah.
I still can't believe they made him do it. That blows my mind.
The other part about the whole thing is like, yes. Look, I think this quarterback class they're going to get 27 is really good, but I don't want to run into a situation where I'm wrong and the Browns lose and we do the same thing. And because there are teams that are going to be worse than the Browns. The Jets are not making any secret, especially if they try to bring in Kyler Murray with very little blocking I guess they've got tackles with very little around him, and they're like, get out there and just make it happen, but not too hard because we really want to get Arch in here.
Could you imagine if Kyler was the guy to turn things around for the Jets?
Right.
An amazing story.
If you get there and you're like, we did all this and it's not there, that's the other part where you sit there and go, no, just put your best foot forward, win football games. I know you're very confident Todd Monken has more than 1 year. I am not. I think if he just completely spits the bit, do you
see him doing that though? Like, that's my thing. I don't think he's going to be bad enough to get canned after 1 year. I don't know how good he's going to be, but I think he's a good enough coach. He's not going to be bad.
Well, if his quarterback room is Shador Sanders and Deshaun Watson, I think he's got a chance.
Well, I can't give you a lot of pushback for that. Hey, speaking of which, and I know I brought him up a second ago, and you at one point were a big Ty Simpson guy. I did not know, like, all the talk about like his dad and like all this stuff. That's an interesting little wrinkle.
Which part?
Well, that Monken and Ty Simpson's dad are close, and Monken tried to recruit him to Georgia, and he's been a fan. Yada yada yada.
So Todd Monken knows everybody in the draft. Yeah. This is the thing, and I was watching people do this at combine. I'm like, don't do this. Like, people are like, Oscar Delp, put on a Cleveland Browns jersey because
he was in the 3rd round, no less. I saw that.
Which and then you find out medically flagged, you can't participate, and it's a freaking insurance issue. He's got all kinds of, he was at Georgia. So if he's in recruiting, all the best prospects were guys he talked to and had some sort of relation. Like Carson Beck, like, I'd love to play for him. I'm sitting there, please God, no.
I feel like we're all still gun shy because Butch Davis only drafted people that he couldn't recruit. So we're worried that
I can only think of, here's the thing. To piggyback on your point, like, I remember when Jim Harbaugh got hired as the Chargers, and everybody's like, well, of course he's going to pick like a million Michigan guys. He picked one off a national championship team. He picked one guy, and he passed over like some of them for the same position, but just other dudes. I can only think of two guys, and you mentioned one of them, Butch Davis, who either drafted guys he knew from Miami or guys he tried to recruit, Gerard Warren over Richard Seymour. Oh my God. Or the other one that jumps out to me is Steve Spurrier. Both of them were terrible, just terrible coaches in the league. Like every year, every time this happens, people are like, well, of course he's just going to get all of his own guys. It just doesn't really happen like that. You get the opportunity to pick really good players, and sometimes they're not guys you had. A lot of the time they're guys you not had. So like if you're saying Monroe Freeling is the pick because you think Monroe Freeling has all the things, I think he does, and you are projecting him to be a great tackle in a couple of years, okay. If you're doing it because he arrived the year after Todd Monken left, then I don't think that's firm ground to stand upon when you're making this argument. But yeah, in particular the quarterback position, he talked to like all of them. That were at Georgia. Yes, you get to do that when you're coaching at Georgia. So I don't put a lot of stock in that. I think it gives you insight. I think you get to know who the right people are to talk to. But I don't think he's go give me that. Just rebuild my Georgia team.
Yeah,
like 2 years removed from when I was actually there to make this thing happen. And even with Tommy Reese and Ephraim Banda, I don't know that the Browns brought in a single guy that was connected to either one. Like, and you would have thought with Tommy Reese in particular, like, of course, Alabama, Notre Dame, of course they're going to bring in guys like that. And I don't think they got any of them. Yes. And like, I didn't take it to that point where I thought they were going to draft him. I thought it was going to be undrafted free agents, and that didn't happen.
Audric Estime, right? I thought we were going to,
well, him or the one running back who I think ended up in Atlanta's practice squad from Alabama, where I'm like, he's really pretty productive back, makes a lot of, like Jace McClellan or something like that. And it was like, oh, of course, like Tommy Reese will call him up and be like, get him here. Well, it didn't happen because ultimately they still want to go to the place that gives them the best opportunity to like make a roster and all these other elements. But like, I think that there is value in Monken having insight. I've said that whenever they brought in some of these college coaches, there's value in the insight. There's value in being able to coach guys that were having been in college recently means you can relate to and coach those guys up. That's hugely valuable. But in terms of being like, well, that means the Browns are going to do, or the team is going to do this and pluck all these guys out. I think that's dubious. I don't think that really works out that way. And we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. And, when they pick Freeling and they go, well, why'd you pick him? Well, as part of the recruiting process that got him there. So, of course, I think that's sketchy.
All right, people, we're going to wrap it up. It is time, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with us for the 2 hours. We appreciate it so much. Be sure to check out OBR.com, guys. Like I said, every single show since the season's ended, this is the time to do it. It's the best time of year for it. It's nonstop news, nonstop action. You got all the insider forums with Lane and Pete and Fred. Be sure to check it out. Make it happen. Free agency starts next week, guys. Get ready for it. Peter, before we go, who's the first free agent the Browns signed? Give me a guess. Give me a name.
My guess is Charlie Kolar. I think that's the one they're going to be like, everybody's going to be focused on Linderbaum, and they're just going to cruise in there and just go, we got our guy.
We got our Y. Yeah. I like it. I'm going to go with Rasheed Walker just to piss you off. Gentlemen, it is always a pleasure. You guys take it easy. We'll catch you next week. Go Browns. Go OBR. We'll catch you guys soon. Thank you.